You want to be a disc jockey?
Very much so. I've wanted to be a disc jockey since I was 7 years old.
What are you, an idiot?
No, sir, I'm not an idiot.
So here's a surprise I bet you didn't see coming. Hope everyone had a great Halloween. I passed out like real early after giving candy out. Totally missed that whole watch along with Carpenter's Halloween, but I ended up watching it by myself later in the night, which I've seen that movie 4 fucking times this month. So I really wasn't too disappointed. So Private Parts from 1997, the whole story of Howard Stern. This is a guilty pleasure comedy for me. I absolutely love this film. There are scenes in this movie and lines that just make me crack up hysterically every single time I watch this movie. Let's talk 1997's Private Parts, because this is just a blast of a time. Now, the first thing with this movie is that you have to be a fan of Howard Stern, which is not everybody. Back then, when he was just starting out and getting big and controversial, and still to this day. So if you're not a Howard Stern fan, like, this movie ain't gonna work for you. You probably already know that. But there's no denying what this man did for radio and for censorship. Because when Howard Stern, like maybe in the mid-90s or so, when he blew up, I remember it, like, vaguely. I was kind of young. But the stuff he was doing on the radio, like, was just unheard of. And the stuff that the skits he would put on, the things that he would say, he was getting nailed by everybody. No one wanted this man to succeed. And I think it's one of the great success stories, like, in show business in general. How this man, he's not a good looking guy. He's all fucking awkward, ugly looking for the most part. He has an awkward sense of humor, but he's just not afraid to go there and go touch any subject, and no type of censorship. Just, I'm going to say whatever I'm thinking right now. And sounds like someone you know. It's like, yeah, Howard Stern has always been a big influence on me. Love his humor and everything, but that above all, the fact that he's willing to go anywhere and just say what's on his mind. People don't like it, fuck off. Like, seek entertainment somewhere else. If it works for you, it absolutely works. So, I mean, just what a success story Howard Stern is in show business, and how big he was able to get just off speaking his mind when everybody else was telling him not to and to stop. So we have, obviously, Howard Stern playing himself in this, which is acting's whatever. He's playing himself, so it doesn't have to be great. Robin Quivers, we have Fred Norris in here. We have Mary McCormick in here playing Allison, his wife at the time. Then we have a lot of cameos. We have in the beginning here with the Fart Man gag that he's doing at, like, this show. We have John Stamos that's announcing him. We see Ozzy Osbourne say, like, what a fucking idiot, like, this guy is. We see a whole bunch of characters and, like, pop culture icons, show business icons in this movie. Flavor Flav, not to throw him in the iconic, like, section, but we get Flavor Flav in here. Let me say this too. I remember seeing this movie, like, right around when it came out. So 97, maybe a year later, 98 or so. So I was like 10 years old. I will never forget that this is the movie that made me fall in love with Paul Giamatti. He doesn't have a huge role in this, but his role is Pig Vomit in this movie. And it's in particular 1 or 2 lines of dialogue that he gives. This is the movie that made me fall in love with Giamatti. Like, what an actor this guy is. Just dramatic roles, comedic roles, he can do anything. And everything he's ever been in since is, I've loved him in everything. In his whole body of work. Still haven't gotten to the show Billions, but just to see that he went on in his career to, like, lead a big show like that, good. Great, because he absolutely deserves it. But he is so great in this movie, and this will always have fond memories of me seeing Giamatti for the first time and like knowing who he is and just falling in love with this actor. Flavor Flav! I like what he says here at the beginning. Like after the whole fart man stupid thing, which is stupid, and he starts walking through the backstage area and sees Ozzy Osbourne, Flavor Flav, and all these people. And he says that I've come to the realization, everything that I do is misunderstood. Everything that this guy did was misunderstood. I relate. Like, I completely relate to that statement. His line, when he's walking backstage and thinking all these thoughts, he says a line where he says, most of these people are Satan-worshipping junkies. Just these little lines of dialogue that he throws into this movie, that he picks out of his brain, and we hear his thoughts and stuff. He comes up with just the funniest lines in this movie. If there is one thing that Stern has and always has had, it's charm. And they show it perfectly, how they frame this movie. That he's basically telling his whole rise to stardom and success to this woman on a flight. And we see it at the beginning, and then we see him at the end when he meets up with Allison and his kids. So this is him telling this whole story to this woman. But just the fact that he says at the beginning, this woman is disgusted by me. She doesn't even know me. But just looking at me, this woman is disgusted by me, and he's right. Then she starts, asking the stewardess, you got another seat? Anything? And they're like, no, we're completely booked. So she has to sit down next to him. But by the end of the flight, after telling this whole movie's events and the story of his life to her, she gets won over by him. And that's something that I think that Stern just had in spades. And still does. He just has a way of charming people. Even if they hate his guts from the very beginning. From the first look. Hate at first sight. With this woman. She even gets won over by him. So you can't deny that he definitely has just charisma and charm to him. His dynamic with his father. When he's talking about his childhood. And he's driving to work with his dad who worked at a radio station, and he starts just saying that, I've always been told I'm a moron. And you just see the dad just yelling at Howard. The entire car ride, he's just saying, oh, shut your mouth, you're a moron, you're an idiot. This kid, man, he had some type of childhood. Just goes to show, too, that you never know where your inspiration or calling in life will come from. He says here that this was the moment he knew he wanted to be on the radio. It was when he went to work with his father, and Sid, the DJ, is freaking out, breaking records, and his father just gets on the mic and says, you will control yourself, and you will resume this broadcast, and just shuts him up, and he ends up sitting down, continuing the broadcast. And that's the moment in Howard Stern's life where he knew he wanted to be on the radio. You never know where your calling is going to come from. What experience, even if it's just one, that will shape the rest of your life and what you want to do with it. The whole scene with the puppets, where he says, I'm 12 years old, my mother bought me some puppets, and he starts putting on the show at the old people's home, and then he's noticing that they're all bored, no one's paying attention, so he starts making the puppets fuck each other, and oh yeah, give it to me, oh yeah. Brilliant. Especially that some of the old people and stuff that are watching, then they start getting into it. Some of them are even getting excited. Howard and his two friends are being driven by Howard's mom in the car, and they start saying that Roosevelt's about to be all Negroes, and our parents are moving because of the Schwartzes and stuff like that. And then she pulls the car over and she's like, I don't want to hear any more of that talk. I'm half Negro and Howard is half Negro, so anything you're saying about them, you're saying about us. So then he looks at his mom, he's like, we're half Negro. That's hysterical too. Then they show his mom and dad, and they're interviewing them. And the mom's like, I can't believe the stories he makes up. I never said and forced him to wear my underwear to school. Then she goes on to say that, and about taking his rectal temperature to when he was 14 years old, he still turned out to be a well-adjusted individual. So she was taking her son's temperature rectally until 14 years old. I don't know about all that. Roosevelt High School. Beautiful. A fully integrated educational system, which of course means 6,000 black guys and me. The whole scene when he starts talking about his small penis, that's just hilarious stuff. I really like the fact, though, that despite what he says early on in the movie about his father and always telling him to shut up and stuff like that he was a strict dad, he still was very supportive of Howard. Like, when he comes home and says, like, I want to be on the radio, he says, like, you never say a word. And then we get that great line when Howard's like, it's coming from the guy who told me to shut up 50,000 times. But then he tells him that there's a communications program in Boston University, and he ends up going to college. So his father and mother both really supported him in his dream to be on the radio. Like, it's not like they were complete dicks and they tried fighting him against going for what he wanted to go for his entire life. Like, they were pretty supportive of it. So he ends up meeting his future wife, Allison, played by Mary McCormick. I think she does great in this. She's just an adorable woman, and she plays just an adorable part here. Like, I really like the character of Allison. I don't know if that's how his real Allison, like, ex-wife was in person, like in real life, but I love her portrayal here. And then we see him in college, which is hysterical, because he's just, and he even makes a comment about it, saying, you gotta just suspend disbelief. And you see him, whatever age he was during this, in his 40s or something like that, tall as can be, but around all these college girls, and he's trying to go ask them out on dates, and then even the blind one, like, touches his face and says, like, sorry, I got a lot of reading to catch up on. That's great. Then he goes and starts for this first radio job. And I love how even the subtitles say wimpy voice when he first starts, because he just doesn't have his identity yet in his voice, and he just sounds so just amateurish and like he doesn't know what he's doing. And I love how they show that at the beginning, and just show how he got better and better with just finding his voice and who he is. The whole scene with the retarded guy, whatever's wrong with him, that he's holding up the sign and he's supposed to say, like, Howard goes to Hartford to work at CCC or something, whatever the radio is, and he just keeps saying it completely wrong. He's like, Howard goes Hartford. That's too funny, man. And then he says it's not going to work, and then they bring out this just big bodybuilder woman, and she says it in one try. Sounds great. Now, him working at WCCC and meeting Fred is probably the best thing to happen to him, like, early on in his career. Once he met Fred, and then once he gets to WNBC and he brings Fred back, which is really admirable of him. He didn't have to remember this guy. He didn't have to say, hey, I got this guy in Hartford, Fred, like, he'll double our ratings if we, or go up 2 points in the ratings if we hire this guy. He didn't have to remember or bring Fred into this at all. So I think it's very admirable that he actually did make good on his word. When he leaves, he tells him, he's like, you know, like, I'll send for you. And he actually does. And I think that was one of the best decisions of his career. And we get the moment where he really finds who he is on the radio and just not holding back, when he gives that whole lie about Stanley Sports, and that, oh, when I was a kid, my parents used to take me down there all the time and stuff, and he gives this whole elaborate story. He says, and the grand opening is this weekend. Like, he just starts saying, like, I just, you know, I got caught in a lie, but that'll never happen again, I swear.
If you leave your underwear on, and you can't cheat. It's just like going swimming.
I don't know what it was, but she started making a lot of sense.
I quote that line all the time. So he moves to a different radio station. I love how the other disc jockey says that he looks like Big Bird. It looks like Big Bird to me. It's like, all right, Big Bird's going to get on here. He's going to sing with Kermit, sing the alphabet song or something like that. Oh, that's so funny. The whole scene with him doing the skit of Mama Look a Boo Boo Day.
Hello, this is Mama Look a Boo Boo Day, the only black traffic reporter in the Detroit area. First, a political statement, if I may. Kill, kill, kill. The White Man by Eugene Mama Look a Boo Boo Day. Kill, kill, kill the white man. Kill him until he is dead.
Kill the white man. All of that, oh, it kills me every time. So Allison left him because he stupidly left his wet underwear from the bathtub with the actress in the car. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like, I mean, I guess it really happened. Like, I don't know how true this is to Howard's life, but I mean, come on. I mean, 101, if you're going to do something like that, like, don't put the evidence, like, right in your car that your wife shares with you. But she starts to forgive him, and she works with mentally handicapped people, which leads to one of the greatest scenes in this movie. All right. The scene in the park when Howard is playing Frisbee with the mentally challenged guy. I can't watch this scene without dying of laughter. It's something about the sound that the Frisbee makes when it hits the guy in the head.
Start again. Here we go. Oh, I'm so sorry. Listen, what you got to do is you got to put this hand up, okay? And you got to try and catch it, okay? All right, here we go. Ready? Here we go. I'm so sorry.
Hoping with all these clips I don't get any problems with WNBC. WNBC. So, Hop Along Howie ends up quitting the station because they decide to revamp and turn into a Western music station, which I don't blame him. I'd be out too. Then he gets to the next station where he meets Robin Quivers, his counterpart. I love Robin. I always have. And I love the fact that she instantly knows what he's going for, knows that he's trying to do something different, and when he starts talking to her like she's a news person, like they even say, like, why is he talking to his news person? They're not supposed to be speaking. And he just starts talking to her, saying, like, do women get horny and stuff? And she goes along with it. And she even says that, like, I felt that he was onto something. There's a lot of chance encounters in life, in everything, obviously. But in his success story here, there's a lot of them. Just if he didn't meet Fred, if he didn't meet Robin, like all these things, he wouldn't be the Howard Stern that we know today. It wouldn't be the show that we know today if it was missing Robin or if it was missing Fred or anything. I think they're just as integral to Howard Stern's success as him himself. Like, they are just as important. And then they pull him aside and Robin, like, specifically keep her behind after he leaves and gets grilled, to tell her, like, listen, be a friend here, don't encourage him, and they lay a whole bunch of ground rules. And then immediately after, she's given the weather, and he has to just immediately interrupt.
You know, Robin, let me interrupt for a second. I'm glad you brought up Memorial Day. You know, I was in Vietnam. I'd like to talk to you about it. I had 11 kills in Vietnam, and I'm telling you, I really should have had more. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. I was in a gook village, and I come upon a schoolhouse. So I grab one of my grenades off my belt, and I throw it right into the schoolhouse. And I blow up the whole damn thing. My dickhead lieutenant comes up to me, and he says, Stern, those are little kids. That counts as one person.
Howard, I was in the military. I was a captain in the Air Force. What were you?
What was I?
Yeah, what were you?
I was in Vietnam.
Army, Navy?
In the Army.
Did you have a division?
The 103rd.
103rd what?
I was in the 103rd. I don't know what I was in, Robin, but I'm saying that I was in the 103rd. And the point of this whole thing is that I think a kill is a kill is a kill, and killing a kid should be just as good as killing an adult.
Then we get the scene when he's doing the broadcast, and he gets the woman to straddle the speaker and turn the bass all the way up, treble all the way down, and he just starts going nuts into the microphone, just like... And she just starts moaning, and people are listening all over the city, and they're laughing and stuff. People crash their cars when she comes on the air. Oh, that's so funny. And then they're losing sponsors and everything. Like, it does not look good for Howard. And then he ends up actually getting new sponsors, and their points in the ratings are going up. So he's obviously onto something here. So then he hires Fred, kept his word, and now it's the three of them. And now it's just an unstoppable force. The scene here when he's interviewing the lesbian, and she starts saying her first lesbian experience, and then he just interrupts.
And the camp director's wife walked in.
Oh, now that's hot.
Then she takes me into this tent.
When you walk in, lesbians all over the place, right? I mean, a whole lesbian sex festival, right?
Oh, you know it, Howard.
Oh, that's so funny. A big lesbian sex festival. So Howard gets hired by NBC without even listening to him or anything. His program, nothing. They just hire him based off ratings. And now they have no idea what they're in for with this guy. And then we have the whole thing with Allison getting pregnant and then having a miscarriage. Now, I say all the time, and I even said in the beginning of this video, with censorship and stuff, I feel like 99% of topics are fair game, especially when it comes to comedy or just jokes in general. Like, people are so uptight and sensitive with dark jokes or anything like that. But I do think there are one or two lines. And for me, that's making a death joke about someone who just died. Like, if you know the person that you're talking to and, like, it's a relative of theirs that just passed away, that's crossing a line. What Howard does on the air here, and has the whole thing, like the voice recording from God saying that he couldn't even get making a baby right, and then you hear the baby crying and stuff, that's passing a line. Like, that's absolutely passing a line. And I 100% side with Allison. The way when she snaps on him and says, like, that was what we were discussing privately for us, and then you go out and you start making jokes about it and can't even look at him. I agree with her 100%. That's taking it too far. You just lost your baby. Like, your wife just had a miscarriage. That's something you don't joke about, especially on the radio for hundreds of thousands, if not a million people, like at this point in his career, to listen to. Like, that's just not right. Then we get Paul Giamatti entering the picture here as Pig Vomit. Just that nickname for him is brilliant. Pig Vomit. And he plays such a great role here, as I said. He has my favorite line in this movie coming up. And they give this guy shit, man. Like, Howard really has a war with Pig Vomit. Trying to just assert himself that he can't get fired. Like, it's in his contract and stuff. They try firing Robin. They succeed a little bit in, bringing Stern Show down and trying to hurt him. But he ends up getting her right back because he goes off the walls without her. And then what an iconic scene this is when Paul Giamatti's teaching him how to say the call letters.
Okay, you ready? The way it's said properly is WNBC. This is key. Come on.
WNBC.
No, I kind of left the NBC.
WNBC. WNBC.
Why don't
WNBC. In my mind, I'm hearing. It sounds like I'm saying exactly what you're saying.
Then they put more restrictions on them. And he starts saying, I got to approve all your skits. Like, you can't use these words, or like there's a certain allotment of bad words you could use. So then they do the skit with the filling in the blank. And the blank a doodle do, where they got to say cock and pussy willow. And all of that is great. And it just shows how he will just push back no matter what. Like, he has a vision. He's going to say whatever he wants. People are catching on to him and his show. And he's starting to get really big. To the point that he ends up putting Don Imus out as, like, the top DJ. So he knows that he's onto something. They all do. But that skit is one of the best. And that's when they fire Robin. Because Howard said that he gave the script to Fred, and Fred gave it to Robin, and she forgot to put it in his box. And he ends up firing Robin since he can fire her or Fred. Like, it's only Stern who's safe here. And then they give them Ross to be like the news guy to take over for Robin. And the whole scene with the kielbasa, the 12-inch kielbasa, and the woman putting it all down her throat, and then he asked Ross like his days as summer stock, which he's like very proud of.
And Donna, I don't know if you know this, but our own news guy, Ross Buckingham, actually has some theater experience as well. Don't you, Ross?
Yes, I once did some summer stock.
I know you're very, very proud of your summer stock experience. When you went on stage the very first time, did you ever get nervous?
No, I was quite comfortable.
I see. It's very interesting. Oh, my God, look at that. The entire kielbasa is going down. She has swallowed an entire 13-inch kielbasa. Ross Buckingham, have you ever seen a woman swallow an entire 13-inch kielbasa? When you were in the theater, did you ever work with a kielbasa?
Then they show him just like what he said and did to me today was the most embarrassing thing of my life. No one else will work with him, so they bring Robin back. And then they do this skit where he's messing with pig vomit directly and ends up calling his wife. And this is before they get Robin back. And he ends up saying that, like, I think he might need more sex to Pig Vomit's wife. Saying, like, he's backed up. Like, isn't he backed up, Ross? Then he hears this Pig Vomit, and he rushes there. Then he just delivers the best line in the movie.
I'm struggling in there.
You know what? You know what you are, Stern? You know what you are? You're the Antichrist.
What?
Yes, that's what you are. You are the motherfucking Antichrist.
If they hate him, why do they listen? Number one answer, they want to see what he'll say next. The last 20 minutes basically just recounting where his life is here. He has the whole AC/DC performance once he becomes the highest rated DJ in New York. And it's kind of bittersweet after the plane lands, the flight that he's on, telling the story to this woman. And he meets Allison and his two kids. Kind of bittersweet knowing that, you know, they divorce and they don't end up together. But hey, that's life. I mean, and he's still a fucking billionaire. Like... So it doesn't matter. Then we get Stuttering John or something, is that his name, at the end, and he starts like bitching that he was going to be in this movie. And then he says, like, Howard said, you can be in the sequel. What if this movie sucks? What if it doesn't do well? What if there is no sequel? Well, he was never in the sequel because there never was one. This is such a guilty pleasure movie. I thought this would be something a little different after Halloween and everything. And yeah, When Evil Lurks and Host from 2020, which I just rewatched this morning for the first time in a long while. Later tonight, don't forget it is Ginger Ninja Jason's birthday today, so he's going to be having a celebration stream at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, I believe. Get ready for some celebration later tonight. Awesome dude, awesome friend, awesome channel, and happy birthday, buddy. But that's Private Parts, 1997, Howard Stern. Hilarious movie. So, all right, guys, wherever you're from, hope you're having a good morning, afternoon, or night, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.
Here we go. Oh, I'm so sorry.